Hey there and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to walk you through some editing and I'm going to go back to basics. Most beginner photographers don't necessarily struggle with editing because they don't know enough. They struggle because they're trying to change everything at once and hoping it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to take control of your portrait editing step by step using a simple workflow that actually makes sense and it works for me. So let's have a look, and I'm going to start in Lightroom. Lightroom has been and still is one of the most powerful editing software out there, and a lot of people tend to gravitate to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in Lightroom and I'm going to show you how I can take this image and I'm going to turn it into this image. So first things first, you can see that the exposure's wrong. You start with the basics first. Don't go jumping in and trying to do color grading and all the rest of that. Start with the basics. So I'm going to bring my exposure down a little bit. I'm going to bring my highlights down a bit because I want to make sure I've got all the details there in the whites. I can boost the whites a little bit. I don't want to crush the blacks. I don't want to play around with texture, clarity, or any of that yet. The other thing I want to do is I want to do a little bit of a white balance. So I'm just going to sort of pick a bit of a neutral area to try and set the white balance off. Her skin is still a little on the orange side, so what I am going to do is I'm just going to bring the oranges down a little bit. I don't mind her having a bit of a tan, but just want to bring that down a little bit. The other thing that you'll probably notice is that my backdrop didn't quite cover the whole of the shot. I'm going to come into my remove tool, and this one here, it looks a bit like an eraser. I am going to select this area, go add, and that's done a pretty good job. I can check the variations to see if there's one better, but no, I think that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over this side, and again I'm just going to go add, and that's done a pretty good job of that. I've got a few things in here I do want to fix in the backdrop, so I might just... Now there is a bit of a shine behind her, but I can get rid of that with a mask. So that's pretty much everything. So now that we have done that, we can then move on to phase 2. Okay, so now that we have done that, what I'm going to do is I am going to put a mask on my background. So I want to select my subject. Actually, just select background. That'll do. And I just want to make sure that everything is in, and it's not. There's a few things that it has missed. So I'm going to subtract with a brush. Sometimes it just takes a bit to make sure that you've got everything on the mask. Okay, so now that I've got that, I can then come into and I can darken the background. I can remove the highlights, which gets rid of that hot spot. And there's a bit of mask I've missed, so I'm just gonna take it off that. Okay. So that has darkened everything in my background, fixed all of that up. Okay, so now that we've got to there, I can then come in to part 2, and that's doing a little bit of a cleanup. Now I could choose to do this in Lightroom, or I could jump over into Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in Lightroom, and then I'm going to go into Photoshop and show you how to do it there as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do, maybe even to 100%. Now there was a little scratch on her toe, so I'm going to go back into the remove tool, but I'm going to go into the healing tool, and I want to fix that up. And you can grab that and you can move it around. And there was a mark here. Again, I'm just going to move that around. And Lightroom does do a pretty good job most of the time of fixing these up, but not always. Just line up that crease with that toe. There's a bruise there. Little scar there. The freckles, it's sort of up to you whether you want to leave them or remove them. Some flyaway hairs. Okie dokie. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this into Photoshop, and I'm going to do a bit more in Photoshop. Okay, so what you want to do to take it into Photoshop, if you right click on your image, go to edit and edit in. You can open it as a smart object, or you can just edit straight into Photoshop. That's fine. Now, while I'm in here, I will do another quick pass, and I really like to use the remove tool. I think it's quite quick and easy to fix anything that needs to be fixed. It does use AI, so if you're not a fan of AI, consider moving one of the other tools. Okay, so now I am going to zoom in, and again, I'm still using the healing tool. I'm just going to get rid of a few things. I don't want to go in too heavy. I don't want her face to look plastic. I just want to remove any blemishes that aren't really there, and fix up some flyaway hairs. Maybe fix up that makeup a little bit there too. Okay, so now that I've got that pretty much where I want, I'm going to do a little bit of skin retouching, but we're going to keep this really, really simple. If I go to my actions, I have got a skin retouch. Okay, so I'm going to go to my actions, and I'm going to go to my portrait setup. And that's literally just going to make a copy, rename it, and turn this layer off. Then I can go to my skin retouch, and what this is going to do is I'm going to use medium blur. So it's sort of a bit like frequency separation, but it's not. So there's going to be two layers. There's going to be a blur layer and a detail layer, and you just need to go through and keep it super simple. So I am doing a medium blur, and what I want to do is do just enough so I can see separation in the color. So I still want to see all the details. So I'm going to do it about 5. The beauty with a medium blur is you can see around her lips and things like that, it's not blurring the colors, it's just blurring the skin. So I'm going to hit that. Then next one, it's going to ask you to do a high pass detail. And I want to keep that fairly subtle. What you use depends on your image. So I still want to be able to see the texture in the skin and the details in her eyes and teeth, but I don't want to see any color. So what I need to do then is I'm going to So they've each got their own layer and they've each got their own layer mask on them. So it's really just two different layers. One I did a medium blur, the other one I did a high pass detail. So if you are looking to do these yourself, you go into other, you will find high pass, and if you come into noise, you will find medium blur. Do not use Gaussian blur because it does some funny things to the skin. So what I'm going to do on the blur layer with a really soft white brush is I'm going to paint it in. Now, at this point in time, yes, it does look awful and plastic, but that's okay. You're better off keeping it a little bit over the top. And I'll show you why in a minute. Just need to move me out of the way. And I'll put a link in below, so if you do want to grab a copy of my actions, you can do that. These are fabulous for speeding up your workflow. You just click one button and most of the work is done for you. I'm going to do the lips. I'm not going to do the teeth. And I could come through and do the rest of the body, which, to save time, I won't put you through the whole body. I will do that myself at some point. Okay, so I've done that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop the opacity back. So I've got some skin softening, but not too much. So now what I want to do is I want to come back and I want to make sure all the details are there for her eyes, her teeth, maybe not too much on the hair, a little bit, but not too much, but we can always bring that back as well. So if I bring that back, now if I've lost any of the skin texture, I can put some of that back in as well. And again, it's just a matter of bringing the opacity back. So that's where it was, and that's where it is now. So it is still fairly subtle. I haven't done the whole body. I can quickly and easily come through and do that. So I'll do that now and speed it up. Okay, so that is the skin softening done. So it does take a little bit of practice, but using those two techniques, so just come in, have your base layer, do your cleanup, come and do a medium blur, just subtle, and a high pass detail, and then you can brush in what you need and not what you want. Of course, as I said, my actions I'll put down below, so that will make things so much easier. From here I can do things like I can do an eye color pop, I can do eye highlights, which I will do in a minute, teeth whitening, so let's go and do that. Her teeth are pretty good, but this is and again it's very, very strong. And then what I'm going to do is bring the opacity down, usually to about 30% is pretty good. Okay, eye highlights. So let's come into here. I want to do eye highlights. And that is just a curves layer where I have brought the highlights up. And I'm going to come in with a small round brush. Just move me again. I might actually put a pop of colour in her eye, and I could use this, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click a new layer. I'm going to click a colour, so I want something a little over exaggerated. Just with a soft brown brush, I'm just going to paint it in. And then I'm going to set that to colour and bring that back. Now I have gone over her eyes a little bit, so just with an eraser, I'm just going to come back and clean that up. And you can have that as strong as you want, but you don't want to go too fake. Just deepen those baby blues a little bit. Okay, and then I've got the highlights there. So this has evened out the skin tones. It's made the skin look a little bit softer without it being fake and plastic. And it's all quite natural. I could come in if I wanted to. If I take a look, some of the freckles here are a little bit strong, so I could come back in with my healing tool. They're just quite distracting. Okay, so we have fixed up our background, which was part 1. Part 2, we have gone in and done a quick cleanup, and we've done some gentle smoothing. From here, we can go and do a dodge and burn. Quickest way to do a dodge and burn, as far as I'm concerned, is to do 2 curves layers. One is going to be bring down your darks, duplicate that, bring up your highlights, Control I or Command I if you're on a Mac to invert both of those. Then with a soft brown brush, you can come in and you can paint in your darks and lights or your dodge and burn. So if I put a little bit, and again you will notice that I am going over the top, but then I bring it back. Now if you go too far in, you will see that it is bringing the oranges back in, and I don't want that. So what we're going to do is come into properties, and I'm going to feather that. See how it's pretty rough there? And feathering that just brings it back in. Now if I come in and do the darks, again it has done some pretty horrible things to the colours, and I'm just doing that quick and messy, but I could bring my feather back in, and I want to just put some highlights in her hair, on her cheeks and her nose. So it's quick and easy to do a dodge and burn, and it is non-destructive as opposed to using the dodge and burn over here, which can be depending on how you do that as well. Okay, so we did part 1, part 2, now we're going to head into part 3, where we're going to be controlling highlights and doing a little bit of detail on colour work and things like that. So I want to add in a brightness contrast layer, and what I want to do is make sure that I don't go too far, because then I lose all the detail, but I don't want to take it down too much either, because then it just looks grey and washed out. So just a little bit, enough to make it look like it's white and still preserve the details. I could pull the contrast back on that a little as well. Now the colour itself is also starting to look a little orange, so I'm going to go into my hue saturation, and I'm going to grab my colour picker, and I'm just going to pull that down just a little bit. I can also go into my colour mixer and drop my blues and greens and bring my reds down. The colour mixer can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes you just have to play with it a little bit. If you want to go into some post-production presets that you can use, so you can use something like Adobe, or if you have some actions that you can use for portraits and things like that, you can go and use them as well. But if you want to steer clear of those, you could leave it here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit save, and that's going to take it back into Lightroom just for some finishing touches. Okay, so now that we're back in Lightroom, I just did a little boost to the exposure, but I could bring that back down, brought my highlights down a little more, brought my shadows up a little bit, brought my whites up a little bit. Still, I don't want to lose detail. And I did pump the clarity just a little bit, but I might bring that back just a bit more. Actually, I might even go the other way, make it a little bit on the soft side. Okay, so from there, I have played around. I've brought all of the color saturation down in pretty much everything between 10 and 15. So what I want to do now is I want to go into the curve, tone curve, and this is completely up to you whether you want to do it. I'm bringing the blacks up a little bit to crush them and give them that slight vintage look. I'm also putting just a little bit of blue into my shadows and a little bit of yellow into my highlights, just to give it that sort of soft vintage look. Okay, so there we have the finished image there. So I hope you found this video helpful. I will put a link to my portrait actions below, so if you would like to buy a copy of those, they certainly help me out. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below, do you use actions or presets or anything like that for retouching or final colorizing your images? Love to know. Pop it in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you next time on YouTube. Bye.